Hello, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about Atago's PAL BX Acid 2 unit. So this is going to be centered around wine production. If you're making grape juice, this is actually the perfect unit for you. We'll go over a few reasons why. So that's going to be this unit here on the right. You'll notice we do have one adjacent. This is just the PAL pH. We have reviewed this a couple times in the past, but we will be briefly highlighting the PAL pH as well, just because they do pair so well together. But just really want to emphasize this is the unit if you're measuring grape juice, or if you're looking at a wine sample. This is really going to pack everything that you need into one unit. So did want to give you guys a kind of a feel for how the instrument measures, the different design features, and then we'll take a quick look here up close. So if I can switch angles here, give you guys a better view. So again, this is part of our BX Acid series. This particular unit is number 2, which is going to be primed for tartaric acid. So that's going to be the conversion scale that this unit is using here. When you're getting that refraction activity going, it's going to convert that into tartaric acid and produce a Brix reading for you, as well as an acid reading. So here's a look. If you have experience with our handhelds, you're looking at the same design really. So nice and compact, fits in your hand, 100 grams. You do have the runoff here for getting the sample off quickly and easily. Sometimes this is of importance when you're dealing with large amounts, especially if you're in the field and you're looking to keep that efficiency up. So I'm just going to flip the unit over here, kind of work our way backwards. So this is the battery compartment. All you're going to need in there is 2 AAA batteries that will last for actually thousands of measurements. All you need. And here, where your eye is probably drawn to, that is our sample stage. That's where you're going to be putting in. All you're going to need is about 0.3 milliliters of your sample, whether it's grape juice or wine. And right in the center there is where the unit is generating those readings. It's going to refract light through your sample and produce a reading right here on the digital screen for you. So we have a start button, pretty simple, just 3 buttons here. Start button, we have a 0 button, and we have the R, which I'll get into a little bit later, but that's really just going to give you a simple, not a comparison, but a conversion of or a ratio rather, of acid to Brix. So very simple, just a couple buttons. You can push them in different ways to get a couple different functions out. For example, we do have NFC, which is built into this. It's not actually advertised on this particular unit, but that is going to hold several data files for you, so you can go back and review your data. So just one example of the things you can do with those couple of buttons. I'm going to flip the unit here. Usually we have a little, here we go, we've got a little lanyard hole there, so that makes it nice and easy to carry around your unit as you would. But did want to just highlight all the angles that are being factored into the production of this unit, so it makes it both easy to hold and easy to clean. So this is IP65, ingress protection rating of 65, which is quite nice. You can put it under running water, and obviously you're dealing with aqueous samples like grape juice and wine. Getting the prism itself wet, getting the unit, the body, it can be wet. Of course, we wouldn't advocate for sustained periods of time that you're submerging it in liquid or anything, but you can definitely expose this to aqueous samples, so to speak, and not worry about it at all. So that's the general layout of the instrument. I'll give you guys a quick view of the PAL pH. As you can see, very similar. We don't have the R for the Brix to acid ratio button, but just two buttons there, calibration instead of 0. Did want to note, if we look real close, there is actually an electrode that is being used with this unit. So if you're concerned with the pH of your grape juice or your wine, that electrode is going to be basically acting like a sponge to kind of absorb that sample and generate the proper pH reading. So that's going to be between 0 and 14 pH. So for the BX Acid 2, did want to give you guys a quick look at basically how we start and then what it's able to generate for you. So first thing we want to do is just power it on there. So all you have to do is hit start. Hopefully we can see that okay there. We're getting an LLL, which I can go over in a few minutes here, but that's expected. It's just telling us that we have insufficient sample volume at the moment. But regardless of what your sample type is, your application, we do want to just really kind of emphasize the importance of 0 setting, or in the case of the PAL pH, just calibrating is one way of putting it, but you're setting your ground 0, you're setting your reference points, so to speak. So if you 0 set, which we can do with just tap water here, you'll have your reference established and the unit knows where to go from there with subsequent measurements. So if I hit start, and you can see I didn't have to put much sample in, just about 0.3 milliliters. So if you're dealing with a lot of grapes, that's going to probably save you some time and resources. So we are generating a reading for Brix despite the fact that it is just water, and that means we're going to tell the instrument that we are 0 setting. So we have that blinking 000 for Brix. That's what we're looking for. And now we are getting 0.0 with our Brix. We've established that reference point. So for acid, it's actually super easy. You don't need anything at all. You just need air itself, and that will 0 set the acid portion. So we would recommend doing this before you're initiating your measurements for that session or that day, whatever you're dealing with. And there we have our acid set with just air, 0, 0, 0. So all is ready. Now we can start our measurements. So I just have a little bit of a grape juice sample here. I did want to stress that the one thing you want to watch out for is the state of the prism. So I am using a spoon here just to transfer the solution, but really make sure that you are not making contact with the prism if you are doing what I'm doing. We want to avoid scratching that at all costs. So once we have our sample in there, we can see just how quick that was. Just a couple seconds, I hit start, a couple seconds later we have that Brix reading already out there. So we're at 20.5% Brix. If I hit start one more time, we're also going to get an acid rating of HHH, which is expected. I'll show you guys what to do for acid in just a second here. Just want to check that Brix again, 20.5, so great repeatability. Now this unit can go actually from 0.0 all the way up to 90.0. These are with the newer models, all the way up to 90.0 Brix. So If you're dealing with a grape juice, a wine, it's really hard to see that kind of going out of bounds. But again, 20.5, that's pretty normal, and we're getting that exact same reading every time we do it. So just great repeatability. Now for the acidity, one really nice feature about this unit and having that scale built in is you're not going to have to titrate. A lot of people are titrating, so you're involving reagents. It's kind of an extensive process. It's an expensive process. All you need to do with this unit is just dilute a little bit, and it will generate that reading right away for you. So all we're going to need to do is take 1 gram of sample. So what's really nice as well is with the PAL BX Acid 2 Master Kit, you're going to have all of these components combined. So no need to go out and purchase these things. It's all going to be in there for you. So we have our little scale, our little beaker, have our ground zero established there. So all I'm going to need to put in is 1 gram of our sample. Got some red grape juice here. Hopefully that's visible. I'm hoping I can be somewhat exact today, but whoever is watching at home, you're probably better at this than I am. Try one more here. Alright, so we're right at 1 gram. That's what we're looking for. Next thing we need to do is just make sure that we're amounting to 50 grams total. So I'm essentially adding, I do want to note you're looking at distilled water here, so we can use just tap water to zero set the instrument. You do want to use purified distilled water when you are diluting your sample. See if I can peek over here. I'm going to go all the way up to 50 grams. And I should mention, you do want to try and make sure, not just specific to this instrument, this sample, but you do want to make sure it is pretty well mixed, so you're getting an accurate representation of the average when you are getting your readings. Almost there. So that's about right. You're probably more accurate at home, but this will give us a good representation of how to measure with this unit. So I'm just going to give it a little stir here. We have our 49:1 ratio, so to speak. So once that's well dissolved, make sure our unit is powered on. We know that we've zero set already for our acid, just using air. We can go ahead and I'll be a little more responsible this time. So I do want to mention this is just for the acidity that we're looking at, so we can go ahead and ignore that Brix reading. Since it is diluted, we're going to be just looking for acid. So right there, you can see how quick that was. Even with me, you know, kind of showing the camera and we're diluting and getting everything right, just already we've been able to get an acidity reading for our grape juice sample. And when I'm pressing start physically, it is under a couple seconds. I'm just able to get that right away. So we'll go ahead and ignore that Brix reading since we're dealing with a diluted sample. But see if we can make that a little bit more visible here. Right at 1.44 acidity. And we can see that nice repeatability there. So that's basically how this unit functions. I did want to give you guys a quick peek at what it might look like. I've got a little line here. We'll see how that kind of differs, but as we can see, it's super quick process. Do want to mention, again, this is IP65 rated, so totally fine to put it under running water, but you do want to make sure that your sample stage is completely clean whenever you're checking a new sample. Just a tiny bit of any remnants of any sort can affect that measurement. So what I'm using right now is a lint-free wipe. There's many different types out there, but essentially you're looking to get that surface clean and avoid scratching to the best of your ability. So let's get just a little line in here, since sometimes if you're importing or if you're checking just a standard quality check, maybe you're working in a lab, there might be some application there for checking that acidity level, checking that Brix level, and here we can see just 2 seconds gave me an 8.5 Brix reading. I'd say that's pretty standard. And the acid, of course, we would have to dilute, which just takes really a minute. I did want to mention 8.8, 8.9. If we were able to get that acid reading right now, nice little feature of this instrument, you can always use that R, so that's going to give you the ratio of Brix to acid just by pressing this button. Now we are having the HHH come up. That's just saying that our sample is too diluted. This is to be expected, but nice little feature of this instrument. I did want to just reiterate NFC, so if you have an application on your phone or something, there's many different types out there. All you're going to need to do is hold your phone up to it, and you'll be able to extract that data, review as you will. So that's about it in terms of the general measurement process. I want to give you guys a quick glance at the PAL pH. So again, these are often used in tandem, just pair together really well. So you're taking care of Brix, acidity, and pH, very important parameters for your grapes. And both units are super compact, super quick to use. So again, this one doesn't have the same the zero setting because it does have slightly different measurement principles. You are going to be using different buffer solutions. Please reach out to us if you have questions about that, but do know that we give you 3 different types when you purchase your instrument. So just a quick view here. I'm going to go ahead and set the calibration point at 4.01. I do want to mention, if you haven't used this for some time, it's always good to kind of wet the electrode, so let it sit in some, let some water sit on the sample stage rather, just to kind of get that primed for measurement. So we've powered our unit on. You are going to use a little bit more sample regardless of what you're measuring. You're going to use 0.6 milliliters in the case of the PAL pH. So make sure that's nice and filled up. So we're going to hit start just to see what happens here. And now we can go ahead, and what's really cool is regardless of which buffer solution, we have a couple different types here. So with the single scale PAL pH, you're going to be looking at 4.01, 6.86, and 9.18 for your buffer solutions. What's really nice about this unit is it's sort of like magic. It'll just know which one you're calibrating with. So right there it recognizes, due to the consistency of this sample, that it is able to set that reference point at 4.01. So very similar to zero setting. It's good to kind of know what your parameters are if your wine is sitting in a particular pH level, or your grape juice. You won't actually have to calibrate at all 3 points or any other points that you're dealing with. Just need a kind of a bottom and a top value that you're giving the instrument a reference point for, if that makes sense. So we do have 4.01 set there. Again, would really recommend using lint-free wipes just to avoid any scratching activity. And I have to confess, I'm not entirely able to tell the exact pH of different this particular wine, or you know, every type that we're dealing with. I'll make a guess here that we're within 0 to 6.86. Hopefully we'll be set. But again, this instrument, if I hit calibrate, is going to detect the difference between the two buffer solutions, and immediately, just takes a second as you can see, set that other calibration point at 6.86 exactly. So we can test that by hitting start, and we're getting that exact reading. So let's take a look at one measurement here. And for those who are watching, there might be more applications out there. Please feel free to share with us. Again, this is for the BX Acid 2 rather. It is primed for the tartaric acid scale conversion. So it's not just grapes. There are other fruits that have this this dominant acid within. So there's plenty of applications available if you're looking at those acid readings. So something to just keep in mind. We'll take a quick look at our wine here, see what kind of pH we are dealing with. Probably want to get about 0.6 milliliters. And there we go. Easily within our bounds. And this unit here, it's going to go from 0 to 14. You're getting 2 decimal points with that. So 0.00 to 14.00. And you're looking at accuracy of plus or minus 0.10%, or I'm sorry, not percent, but pH, which is really great for a handheld unit. And you can probably see above here there is a temperature reading as well. So nice little thing to keep in mind. This unit actually has ATC for automatic temperature compensation. So it is, if your unit's a little bit cooler or warmer, it is going to actively compensate for that and produce the right reading. So just makes life really easy, to be honest. We are getting a tiny bit of fluctuation, but again, at 0.1, now it's getting that nice repeatability. You are within the bounds at that 0.1 pH plus or minus. So that about does it. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of kind kind of how the instruments function. We can see that they're different with their measurement principles. The design's a little bit different, but they operate very similarly. And with both, you're able to generate a reading quite easily, quite quickly. So I did want to open it up in case there's any questions about the BX Acid 2 or the PAL pH. See if we have any questions here. And again, there might be, applications or stories that you might have that are worth sharing, so please do feel free to reach out, or if you have troubleshooting questions. We did see HHH come up, so just to reiterate, that one's going to come up if you're it's out of the measurement range for the instrument, the intended measurement range. So in that case, if you're not diluting enough, that could come up. LLL, insufficient sample. There's really only a couple that you could expect. These units do really well to kind of compensate for you, even if there's a little extra light. Sometimes it'll just kind of produce the reading regardless. So do reach out if you have any troubleshooting questions. Looks like we are okay on other questions. I did want to mention we do have a meetup next month, I believe, since it's going to be on coolant, run by, we'll have to double check on the date, I'm sorry. I believe it's going to be at 10:30 next week, so same time next week on coolant. This is for a couple different handheld units, so please check us out. Follow us on Instagram if you can. Thank you for joining us today. I forgot what the day it was.